All right, today I'm showing you one of my favorite recipes. We are doing a cast iron smoked focaccia with a barbecue twist. I'm half Italian, so I have a pretty unhealthy relationship with good Italian bread. It is so addicting. I could just eat a whole loaf by itself. If you give me some olive oil dipping sauce, that thing is going to be devoured. So when I found this focaccia recipe and I tried it, I was pumped with how easy it was and super delicious. This stuff is so good. I probably cook it every weekend, but at least every other weekend for sure. So I want to show you this fantastic recipe, but I know this is a barbecue channel, so we're going to do a little barbecue twist on this focaccia. The original recipe is in a cast iron pan, which makes it even that much better, and it's in the oven. And obviously you do the traditional focaccia. You can put anything really on it that you want. You can just bake it plain with a little olive oil, whatever you want. That's what's so great about focaccia. Like I said, we're doing a barbecue twist, and we're also going to be smoking this out on the pellet grill, and it comes out fantastic. Now I'll leave a link to the recipe that I followed down in the description. Obviously this is going to be a little different, and focaccia you can really try it numerous different ways. I've made it so many different ways. First we're going to have to make some dough, and we're going to need yeast, and that's another thing about this recipe. I'm not a bread person. I don't make bread. Yeast is kind of iffy to me, but for whatever reason this recipe is super simple with the yeast, and I have never had one issue at all. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you how to make this easy dough. All right, to make this dough you're going to need a food processor. My food processor has this little plastic blade which works perfect for dough, but you can use a regular blade if you don't have that. So we start off with 2 cups of flour, and this is some whole wheat flour from Italy. I buy this on Amazon. It's fantastic flour. It comes right from Italy. I will leave a link down below if you're interested in that. Then we're going to add a little bit under a half a teaspoon. The recipe calls for half a teaspoon, but I have some salt in the next ingredient, so I'm not going to put as much salt as they say. And the next ingredient is my homemade barbecue rub. This is where we go into this barbecue twist on this focaccia. You can use any barbecue seasoning you want, about a teaspoon of that barbecue seasoning. Now other options, if you want to go the traditional Italian route, I usually do some chopped up fresh rosemary. If I don't have that, I can do Italian seasoning. I like to add garlic powder in there as well, and that works pretty good. Now we're going to add some yeast. I've got this active dry yeast, original Fleischmann's. We're going to use 1 whole packet. You can also use the rapid rise yeast. I've used both and haven't noticed a difference in either one. And that's pretty much it for the dry ingredients. So we'll get our top on, turn this onto dough, and we're just going to give it a quick to mix everything up. All right, now the last 2 ingredients to bring this together. You're going to want about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. These are just eyeball this. And then because of the yeast, you're gonna want 3/4 of a cup of lukewarm water. I like to get it between 110, 120. That's usually worked well for me. Now we can get our top on. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna pulse it for 2-second increments until it forms a dough. And we're probably gonna do this for 30 seconds to a minute. So you don't need to knead the dough. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, now when you're kneading it, if you notice that it is either too dry or too wet, you can either just add a little flour or add a little bit of water. I might add just a spritz of water. A little bit of water goes a long way with the dough. All right, lost the camera there for a second, but we are done with this. You're gonna wanna get yourself a bowl, put it in about a tablespoon of that olive oil in there. Then you wanna just pull your dough out. And this is a much different color than I'm used to because of that barbecue seasoning. Now what I like to do is kind of just roll it and pinch it in on itself to give the top a nice smooth texture, and then roll it into a ball. Kind of pinch the bottom together best you can. All right, and once you got into a nice ball, and this stuff smells fantastic as usual, Go ahead, put in the olive oil and just roll it around. Then you can pick it back up, coat it all with that olive oil, and then place it back in the bowl. All right, now get some plastic wrap, just cover that up. Then sometimes I like to throw a towel over this, and we're going to let this rest, and it will rise, and it's gonna take about 2 hours for this. Let's jump ahead 2 hours, and we will get this thing prepped to cook. All right, so here is our dough 2 hours later. You can see how much this has risen. But before we get to that, let's prep our cast iron pan. So today I'm using my Lodge cast iron pan, and this is not a regular Lodge. I actually ground down and finished the inside of this because the cheap Lodge cast iron pans have such a rough coating. I had nothing but trouble with mine, and everything would stick. I couldn't get the seasoning right. So what I did was ground it completely down to bare metal, made it nice and smooth, and seasoned it numerous times. And I've been using this so often, and now it is just fantastic. Super slick and smooth. You can cook eggs easily on it with no issues. There's a reason that Lodge is so cheap. If you have a super nice $100 cast iron pan, that's not necessary, but with a Lodge, you probably need to refinish the surface if you're having trouble with it. So today I'm gonna be using this Lodge. We're just gonna get a little bit of olive oil in there and then just spread this around. And you wanna make sure you get up on the sides so the bread doesn't stick to the side of the pan either. Now all you wanna do with this dough here, poke it, and it'll kind of release all that air, shrink down a lot. Then I just take it straight out and into the cast iron and just kind of spread it out. I work from the middle out. And it doesn't need to be smooth. I actually like having all these dimples in it because usually with a traditional focaccia, I'll drizzle some olive oil on there, which I'm actually not going to do today. So the dimples aren't too big a deal, but usually those dimples hold all the oil, so I kind of like them. Kind of push it just up around the edge like that because it'll shrink a little bit and it kind of slides down. So I like to get it right up to the edge. Try to make it as even as you can, but this is an easy recipe. Doesn't need to be perfect or anything like that. So there we go with the dough. This definitely has more of an orange tint because that barbecue seasoning's got a lot of paprika in it and stuff. It usually doesn't look this color if you're doing the traditional focaccia recipe. And for the most part, what I like to do is go ahead, throw on some fresh sliced tomato and some freshly chopped basil on there. Finish it off with some flaky salt, and that is pretty much it with the drizzle of olive oil. And that is a fantastic way to go, traditional way. But for barbecue today, we're gonna go on with some pulled pork. This is some pulled pork that I had left over. It is cold now. You might be thinking this is kind of like a pizza. Well, it's like a sauceless pizza kinda. And I've actually used this dough to make pizza, and it's fantastic. If you wanted to, you can go ahead, put a sauce down, you know, cheese. If you're making a pizza, this would work fine. You can cook it right in your cast iron pan. I've done the Chicago style deep dish before. That is a fantastic recipe with this dough. But we're gonna put a decent amount of pork. With the focaccia, you don't really overload it with toppings too much because it's more about that bread. So that is all the pulled pork I'm going to be using on this. So what I like to do is kind of just push it down so it beds into the dough. Now the next thing, I'm just going to go on with some thinly sliced red onions, because barbecue and red onions go together very well. And then after this is finished cooking, I'm gonna go over with a drizzle of barbecue sauce as well. You could probably add the barbecue sauce on now, but I like drizzling it on afterwards. Then I'm gonna go on with some jalapeno peppers. These are super spicy jalapenos. I grew these in my garden and they are very spicy. So I'm going to just do a little bit of the jalapenos. I know sometimes when you buy jalapenos in the store, hit or miss whether they're spicy or not, but I know for a fact these are very spicy. That should be good like that. So that is our beautiful focaccia barbecue style, and this is going to be smoked. I'm doing this on my Z-Grills pellet smoker. If you know my channel, you know I love the Z-Grills pellet smoker. It's such a fantastic grill. Now you can do this in the oven at the same temperatures and time like I said, but it's a barbecue channel, we got to use the smoker, so we're going to be throwing this on the smoker outside. What you want to do is set your smoker or oven up to 450 degrees, preheat it at 450, then put it down to 400 right before you put this in. So let's bring this outside and we're going to throw it in the smoker. All right, so here we are at the Z-Grills. Like I said, I got this preheated to 450. I'm going to go ahead, turn it down to 400 now. And we're going to open this up. We're going to throw this on. And we're going to let this cook for about 20 minutes, check on it, but it's going to take about 20 to 25 minutes. But I'll see you back out here in 20 minutes. All right, so 22 minutes on this focaccia. See how nice that looks? Now, can't really tell if it's ready. What I like to do is just give it a poke, make sure it feels firm. That's pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off. I'm gonna let it rest for probably half an hour because you don't want to eat it super hot. You can eat it warm, which is nice. So I'm gonna let it just cool off a bit. Then we'll get in there, slice it up, and first, actually, we got to put that barbecue sauce on. Then we'll slice it up and give it a try. So I will see you inside. All right, so here's our wonderful barbecue style focaccia. I'm telling you, this is a super easy recipe for you guys to try, and you will impress a lot of people at a party cooking up a focaccia. Like I said, if you're not doing the barbecue style, just go ahead, throw some sliced tomatoes and basil on there. It'll be absolutely delicious. But you can do anything you want. I've done roasted onions, I've done roasted peppers and onions on there. Really, it's up to your imagination, but saw how easy the dough was. Throw it in a cast iron pan, bake it up. There's really nothing to it, and you got some delicious focaccia for an appetizer. Like I said, I will leave the link to the recipe that I follow loosely in the description if you're interested in looking at it. But let's go ahead and drizzle this with some barbecue sauce. So I've just got this Kinder's original barbecue sauce. It's all right. I like it because it's got this nice squeeze bottle, which is good for making stuff look good. So I'm gonna put a good amount. Give it a nice drizzle, just like that. Now, if you're doing the tomato and basil, what I like to do is drizzle it with some balsamic vinegar. Absolutely delicious. Also, I didn't mention that sometimes when I do the tomato and basil, I'll also put little chunks of fresh mozzarella on it. Absolutely delicious. Like I said, you'll blow some people away with this easy cast iron focaccia recipe. I'm gonna slice off a few pieces of this and give it a try and let you know how this barbecued focaccia tastes, because this is a first for me. All right, so you can use anything to cut this up. A lot of times I just use a pizza cutter wheel, but today I'm just going to be using this slicing knife. I like to cut them up into like little squares, basically. And a jalapeno and some barbecue sauce on it. But check that out. Beautiful, nice, soft, fluffy focaccia bread. But let's go ahead, give this a try and see how this barbecued focaccia is. That's a spicy jalapeno, like I said, but this has some awesome flavors. Instead of getting that herby Italian style crust, get more of that barbecue flavor, which is really good. It's got a nice smoky flavor because of that smoked pulled pork, as well as cooking this out on the pellet cooker. This is definitely a good option for a focaccia. But the dough recipe is really what makes this so good. It's light, crispy, fluffy, absolutely delicious. Telling you, you saw how easy it was. Give this a shot, guys. One of my all-time favorite recipes for sure. And like I said, I'm cooking this all the time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. I'm gonna leave all the stuff in the description down below like usual. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe right over here. And I'll leave a couple of great barbecue videos over here for you. But most importantly, get out there and smoke something good.